Well, looks like Trump is trying to cut more programs. And of course, the irony of this is over 9,000 because, as you guys know, he passed through a tax bill that the CBO estimates will cost over $1 trillion. And what you're looking at now is basically they do that, they ram in these tax cuts for the wealthy and rich people. And then what do? They go in and they slash programs that help the American people and often middle class people, in this case, poor people and middle class people as well. But, your average everyday American. So, any idea that Angry Orange has somehow drained the swamp or is any sort of a contrarian towards normal conservatism is really stupid. But here's what Raw Story says. They say, months after ramming through deficit exploding tax cuts for billionaires and large corporations, President Donald Trump and the GOP are now looking for programs to slash to make up the difference. And they're starting with children's health care. According to a Washington Post report late Monday, Trump is, quote, sending a plan to Congress that calls for stripping more than $15 billion in previously approved spending, $7 billion of which would come from the broadly popular children's health insurance program known as CHIP. So this is really disgusting because it's really another thing when you start taking away funding that goes towards children. And this is something interesting that a lot of people didn't know about, but in the proposed Obamacare repeal that was going to happen due to the massive cuts in Medicaid expansion. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, the reason that Obamacare really did help a lot more people get insurance, like really big amounts, was because of the expansion of Medicaid from Obamacare. And so when that was pulled, that was a very big, that was really one of the big chunks of why so many people were going to lose health insurance. Now, basically, in that case, had they pulled that out, what they were going to end up doing is basically a lot of mentally disabled kids who were, because really you'd have to be rich to really be able to cover something like that because healthcare is so expensive now. And they were, with the Medicaid cuts, they were going to end up leaving kids who had mental disabilities or handicaps essentially unassisted. And it's a disgusting move, but going after, and I talked about him trying, a while ago, a couple months ago, about him wanting to cut LIHEAP, which was basically a program that subsidizes heating for poor families in countries where it's too fucking cold. So this really shows that, again, the party of family values and compassion. And I've heard Trump talk about undocumented immigrants and how he was trying to talk about how compassionate he was and how he wanted to be, how we need to be compassionate towards him. And I love that. That's part of the reason why a lot of my immigration, policies myself come from an empathy position. Now, what you're looking at here is a complete lack of empathy. I mean, Donald Trump is effectively a, just disgusting monster. Cutting $7 billion from CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program. You're going to cut money from CHIP while you just turned around and gave literally billions of dollars of tax cuts. You pulled out the estate tax, for fuck's sake. There's no reason for that. And all of these tax cuts that destroy the economy, and then you end up having to cut funds, and where do you cut it from? The programs that go to help the American people. And what I try to tell people is, you shouldn't be bitching about paying taxes. You should be bitching about where those taxes go. Because taxation leads to a better society, because then you can take that money and help people who need it, in turn, benefiting the economy. So one of the best ways to use tax dollars is healthcare. Do you know why? It's because it goes to directly aiding the American people who need help. They're in dire need of help. It's healthcare, for fuck's sake. What kind of a monster, an absolute monster, do you have to be to deny someone healthcare? You have to be disgusting. Not to mention that this is disgusting to the 99th power, because this is for children. He's proven himself to be a disgusting monster, and honestly don't know what else to say, but he really, any idea that he's anyhow different than other Republicans who were these fiscal conservative douchebags, there is no fucking difference.